Okay, great. Mike, I don't know, do we have anybody who is participating? Oh, actually, do we introduce ourselves first and then go to the, I'm out of practice since we're not all in the same room again.
Right. I think we have the attendance, so we've been not introducing everybody.
Okay.
And we do not have any other people attending at this.
Okay. Great. Well, then let's move right on to the presentation from the Albany Port District Commission.
Okay. Patrick, do you know where the presenters are?
I did not see that even on the agenda. Did somebody reach out to our team?
To Rich Hendrick.
Okay.
And he's not on the meeting right now.
No, it's always me. We actually have them presenting to a whole team from OGS, DEC, and Department of State as I'm on this call. I'm sorry that I did not see that when I got it in the mail yesterday.
Okay.
We can have that at the next meeting, or I can bring you up to speed at where we are.
Let's hold off until the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. As everyone knows, there is a very large expansion going on at the Port District Commission, and CEG is hosting a series of webinars about the wind project. So I would encourage anyone and everyone to take advantage of opportunities to learn more, because it's really exciting. And we'll look forward to that presentation at our next meeting. So with that, we're moving on to the Transportation Improvement Program amendments. There are a number of amendments, and Mike, I guess I'll kick it back to you to walk us through those so that we can take an action on those amendments.
Thank you. The first one is a DOT amendment for Sidley Road over I-87. Bob or Pat, are you going to give us a brief summary?
Yeah, I'll speak to that, Mike. Thank you. As most folks know, an oversized vehicle, an overheight vehicle, struck the Sidley Road Bridge over the Northway several weeks ago, and design has been scrambling to get a replacement. The rehabilitation costs, repair costs were prohibitively expensive relative to what a new structure would cost. So the decision was made to go forward with the design. We're hoping it'll be later this fall. The temporary structure being in place right now. So this, essentially, we're looking to add about $9.5 million, of which is funded out of a statewide pot. It doesn't affect anything else on the tip, but we just need to get this added to the tip and step here so the project can be progressed. I don't know if Pat wanted to talk a little bit more about it.
No, I don't have anything else to add, Bob. I'm sure everyone was aware we had to hit. We scrambled to get the bridge reopened. But it is just a temporary situation, so we're looking forward to getting this replaced, raising the bridge so it never gets hit again.
So like I said, Mike, it doesn't affect anything else on the program as it's coming from a statewide pot.
Okay, thank you. So we'll need to vote. We'll need approval on each one of these items. So
can I have a motion? Do you want to go through them all and then take motions, or take motions as we?
We'll probably take a motion for this one, and then the next seven next seven are all related. They're all CDTA, so we could probably take them all together.
Okay,
Mike,
so
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, the next 7 are adjustments to CDTA projects, and these happen annually, because when we do program these projects, these are estimates, and later on in the year, CDTA receives the exact amount of their grants from the FTA. So that we make these adjustments when the estimates come in, usually at this meeting, actually. So it's all funding from FTA. It's all specific to CDTA projects, but these are really kind of a formality or administrative change. Carm, did I summarize that sufficiently, or would you like to
did,
say
Mike.
more?
You did. I can go through each one of these, but they're relatively routine. Maybe I could summarize anything that's a little different. The only thing that a couple of these may pop out at you. Facility improvements, that's basically the enclosures that you see, shelters along our route. Actually, federal government requires that we do a minimum of those every single year. A certain percentage of our federal money has to be spent either on new locations or renovations, or new locations. Saratoga service may jump out at you too. Our federal allotment for Saratoga comes in separate from the rest of the region because of the way the urbanized area is defined. That's why that is a separate line item. That all goes into one big funding pot for us. Bus replacement, it says expansion, but it's really our replacement program, which is 1/12 of the fleet is replaced every year. That allows for an even, steady influx of new technology into the organization. And then the only one that is different this year is a disinfecting system for our buses. We are actually out to bid right now for a disinfecting system on every bus, which will obviate the need to go in literally by hand. We're using a lot of labor, a lot of time to disinfect every bus every day. So this will be a constant disinfecting system built into the overhead unit. As with everything we do, nothing is cheap. The initial estimate for the fleet is about $850,000 to install these systems. Actually, the initial look at the proposals, we may be able to cut that in half, but it's still going to be about $500,000 to do that. But in my mind, that's money well spent, and will, in the long run, save us pretty hard labor. You may have chuckled at the story last Friday where one of our star buses was hijacked, robbed, stolen, quickly recovered thanks to our GPS system in the Albany Police and the state troopers. But that bus was carrying disinfecting supplies into downtown Albany where our buses are staged so that they could be disinfected. So hopefully this will result in no more buses being stolen.
And it may be the secret sauce to eliminating cold and flu season forever. So
At least
there's
on our
that.
buses, Mayor.
Okay, can I have a motion? I can't see anyone, so you'll have to unmute yourself to make the motion.
I'll make a motion, guys.
And Linda, I think you're seconding.
Yep,
Any
I'm
further any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
Thanks, everybody.
Great. So Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you for the TIP application and evaluation update.
Okay, a few months ago, we started the process of preparing for the next TIP update. And in that process, we were looking at our procedures internally to make these procedures a little easier, more automated, and smoother internally and for the members. So we looked at our applications, we looked at our merit score sheet, we looked at several others. Sandy Miswitz is going to go over the package, the summary that's in your package. And we'll go from there and answer any of your questions. Sandy?
Great, thanks, Mike. So we are in the midst of updating several aspects of our Transportation Improvement Program evaluation process. The first part is developing a web-based project application. At this point, we have selected a JOT form, which is a web-based form building tool to create the new application. We're currently testing a draft form, refining the questions, and we'll be providing the CDTC Planning Committee with a demonstration of the new form at its July meeting. In addition to the application, we have been in discussions with DOT and the Planning Committee on a preservation and beyond preservation discussion paper. We'll get into details on that following this summary. But that draft paper was shared and discussed with the Planning Committee at its May meeting, and we're accepting comments at this point through June, and we'll have a revised version of that document at the July Planning Committee meeting. The other areas that we're working on updating is the merit evaluation score sheet. As you may remember, 50% of the score comes from a qualitative assessment of the projects using a variety of criteria. The language had to be updated with the adoption of new visions and some other changes in the region. We shared a draft score sheet with the Planning Committee at its April meeting. That too is currently being revised, and we anticipate sharing a final draft to the Planning Committee at its July meeting with a hopeful recommendation for policy board adoption in September. And the final major piece is internal data management. Our staff is building a master database for all the TIP project data, which will be used to not only assist us in evaluating the projects, but in creating reports to share with Planning Committee, Policy Board, and the general public in terms of project fact sheets, summary data tables, and assorted other materials. We're going to use Microsoft Access as the base tool to develop all of the materials within, and we have some staff working on updating and revising spreadsheets and other materials for internal project tracking as well. And all of that will be presented to the Planning Committee over the summer. So our goal here in terms of schedule is we're going to have 2 Planning Committee meetings between now and the next Policy Board meeting in September, where we hope to share and get approval from the Planning Committee to accept all of the materials that we've created. And then we will be sharing them in brief with you in September for adoption and for use in the next Transportation Improvement Program solicitation. As of now, as far as we know, we're anticipating the solicitation to begin in fall of 2021. That remains a bit uncertain. We haven't heard that officially, but we're moving forward with that assumption at this point so that we're prepared no matter what happens, whether that be a regular program update through the state or some announcement from the federal government in terms of new federal transportation funds being available for new projects. And that's all I had. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay. So do we want, hearing no questions, we can move into the preservation discussion?
Sure. Did you want me to start with that, Mike?
Yes, please.
Sure. So as I mentioned, the other component of this is our staff developed a draft discussion paper on this concept of defining preservation versus beyond preservation projects. In our 2019 Transportation Improvement Program update process, the NISDOT strategy of preservation first was utilized, but we didn't have access to the transportation asset management plan that was developed after the TIP update, which sort of outlined some of the treatment types and categories of projects that better define what a preservation project is and what a beyond preservation project is. What the purpose of the definitions is twofold. One, it assists NISDOT in developing and meeting its own internal targets. They do have internal targets for preservation that they try to hit in the program update process. So better defining what a preservation project is will allow CDTC staff to evaluate the projects more fairly if there's a universally accepted general definition for what preservation projects are. We went through an exercise to review not only the Transportation Asset Management Plan from NISDOT, we also looked at some of the materials from the last TIP guidance update document, and a few other materials and resources to develop a definition of terms for preservation and beyond preservation. We also wanted to define what we mean with respect to ADA accessibility standards. So as more of as a reminder to sponsors about their responsibilities with respect to the Americans with Disabilities Act. The big crux of this is really, I'll go through one example, which would be the pavement or the road project category. One of the things that a lot of sponsors have done in the past is, as part of their road preservation proposal, simply repaving a roadway, they also incorporate the ADA treatments and perhaps some amount of sidewalk replacement. And what was happening is that in some cases, some of the sponsors were asking for a significant amount of sidewalk replacement. And when you start doing that, it starts moving the project away from just a preservation as we're defining it into a beyond preservation category. So one of the things that we tried to do is come up with a sort of a threshold for road projects. Basically that a road preservation project shall not have more than a half mile or 2,600 plus linear feet of sidewalk replacement as part of the project, because it becomes a much bigger and more expensive project at that point. And it's difficult to compare apples to oranges when some of our roadway projects don't have pedestrian facilities on them at all, such as the interstate system. So coming up with a fair threshold value for issues like that is sort of the underlying theme of what this document is trying to do. With respect to bridges, we tried again to define what would be considered preservation versus beyond, which in this case would be a rehabilitation or a replacement. And we did the same for all of the modal categories of projects. It's our hope that as we continue our discussions with the planning committee, that we will reach some consensus on the definitions that will all be used to guide how we categorize all of the TIP project proposals in the next update. And will also help guide how, the different evaluations and project prioritization steps throughout the TIP update. So that's a very brief overview. If you'd like more information, I'd be happy to share more. I'll turn it back over to you, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Are there any questions about our TIP evaluation process, application and evaluation process?
Mike, this is Linda. I have a comment on the last thing for the Beyond Preservation project definitions. I realize it's moot. They're supposed to be doing ADA, but seeing everything else has the projects are subject to ADA standards, can that be added there so that people, either the purists or people who are new, they think that, oh, I don't have to do ADA on those?
Sure, we can add that in, Linda. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, we'll move on to the next item.
Okay, Complete Streets, Summer Series.
Okay, so this is part of our efforts to really try to do some implementation around the long range plan, our New Visions 2050 plan. In the past, or in many cases, long range plan kind of gets put aside projects during the 5-year period that it's effective. But in this case here, we're really trying to implement more of the plan itself and make sure that our members know about the plan and what they can do to help us implement some of the recommendations in the plan. So this project has been overseen or managed by Jen Saponis. So she's going to talk a little bit about the summer series. Jen?
Thanks, Mike. There should be a handout that went out with the packet of materials for today's meeting about the Complete Streets Summer Series. Like Mike said, this is part of the New Visions virtual learning series, an effort to provide local planners and transportation agencies and organizations with the tools and information they need to implement our New Visions 2050 plan. So Complete Streets is a major strategy in New Visions, and it's been a popular topic with our local governments. So we had some capacity in our existing Complete Streets workshop contract to fit in 3 hour-and-a-half webinars. They will be Tuesday, June 15th, Tuesday, July 13th, and Tuesday, August 17th. Each webinar will focus on will highlight kind of a different element of Complete Streets, first with obstacles to implementing Complete Streets, and examples of Complete Streets demonstration projects, both locally and other projects that have been done elsewhere in New York State or outside of New York State. And then the end of the summer, we'll end the series with a webinar on open streets, some examples of success stories, how they went. These were mostly done in response to COVID, but looking at long-term trends and what communities need to know about them. So the workshops will be moderated by CDTC staff, and the materials will mostly be presented by Planning for Places with Sam Schwartz Engineering. There is information on the CDTC New Visions virtual learning series webpage for how to register. Also, there's the link to that webpage is there in the handout, but you can find it right on our webpage. You do need to register beforehand, but it is free. And for AICP planners, there's 1.5 credits available. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. And of course, as always, we're continuing to schedule virtual New Visions trainings for planning boards, zoning boards, town boards or city councils. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Jen, I have a question. You just mentioned, zoning boards, town, like who should we be making sure has this information, and who should we be encouraging to, to participate?
So for the Complete Street series, similar to how we do workshops, we touch base with, all the different departments within local governments, from planning, engineering, DGS, safety. So really the Complete Street series is relevant to many different local government departments. So, but then our other virtual workshops and webinars, depending upon the topic, we're mostly trying to gear these towards local planners, engineers. Some of them are, safety, law enforcement focused. So, but those are definitely planning and engineering, sometimes law enforcement and other public safety departments.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So Mike, I think the next thing that we have on the agenda is to go through the status of planning activities. So I'll kick it to you first.
All right, thank you. So in your packet, what we usually provide is the table with our planning activities, and I'm going to share that right now, just to review it briefly. So we have 6 ongoing linkage studies right now. 3 from last year and 3 that were just approved a few months ago by this committee. So linkage studies in the village. Actually, last year they were all in the village. Village, Ballston Spa, Menands, and Scotia. That all 3 linkage studies last year were in villages. This year we have linkage studies in the town of East Greenbush, and City of Rensselaer, and the City of Troy. If you'll notice, they're all in Rensselaer County, just by coincidence. We have several planning and technical assistance programs going on. That solicitation is ongoing right now. So if you're interested in technical assistance from either the CDRPC or CDTC staff, please contact us. Contact Mark Consiglione from CDRPC or Sandy Misowitz from CDTC to talk about the technical assistance program. The last thing in the table is other planning activities, and this is a little unusual for us. I mean, we usually don't have as many as we have right now going on at this point. We talked a little bit about New Visions and the fact that we're trying to implement that over the entire period, but we have a lot of other things going on. We have that local bridge preservation report, which on the table. That date needs to be updated. That's actually going to be completed, finalized next month, but it's about 90% complete. But that's a look at all the local bridges, looking at all the inspection reports, coming up with estimates for preservation projects for the New York Bridge program and for our TIP update for local sponsors. We have 2 ADA self-evaluation projects going on right now, one in Saratoga Springs and one in the town of Glenville. The Patroon Creek Greenway study has started. That is looking at the feasibility of actually implementing the Patroon Creek Greenway, which is the idea has been around for a long time, but it really needed a little bit of a push. Like a lot of other projects in our trails plan, we're trying to implement that trails plan, so we thought this feasibility study would help do that. Bus lane feasibility study is a joint project between us and CDTA to look at bus lane feasibilities. We're also working, this is a DOT study, the 378 bridge, Pell Bridge study is really managed by DOT, but we are been invited and we are participating in that. We are assisting Albany County with their Loop Trail feasibility study. And the last thing we're doing there is our regional truck parking study. Right now, the REI is out for advertisement and consultant responses are due on June 23rd of this month. So this month, June 23rd. But that's going to be looking at the regional truck parking issue. And there's never enough truck parking when it comes to commercial trucking. And we're going to be looking at where that occurs and how it can be improved. So those are all the planning activities for CDTC. Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Great. And again, I apologize, I can't see everyone because I have a smaller screen today, but CDRPC.
Thanks, Mayor. We're wrapping up our spring webinar series. Final webinar, I believe, is next week. So contact all of your planning and zoning board members. So those sessions are eligible for credit. In March, we launched a COVID recovery economic dashboard on our website. One of the interesting data sets was in-migration as evidenced by change of address data from the US Postal Service. That data is available on CDRPC's website. In addition, I wanted to give all the elected officials and others a heads up that with the latest recovery bill, the Economic Development Administration, of which CDRPC is the Economic Development District, is scheduled to receive 3 times more money than they did under the CARES Act. So we've been hearing some indicators that they're going to be looking for higher awards for infrastructure grants focused on resiliency and sustainability and green energy and technology in those areas. So we'll be communicating all those available funding opportunities as they get announced at the federal level. There's still some negotiation that's happening, so hopefully that'll be resolved in the near term. We'll get some more information about that. We fully launched the new iteration of the Clean Energy Communities Program Leadership Round in the past couple months, and we've been doing some outreach to continue that assistance program to help municipalities lower their carbon footprint and save money. That's the basic update.
Thank you. And we always like to hear about more money. So, okay, Carm, I believe you're on here. I know you were momentarily or just a moment ago.
Yep, thanks, Mayor. Couple things. We've been in expansion mode since before COVID, and it continued through COVID and continues now. I think we can say we're almost past COVID or post-COVID. Ridership, it grows month over month. It's slow. We have a long way to go, but we're getting there. We anticipate a big jump in ridership when colleges come back in September with a more normal lifestyle. Colleges were back, but most of the students did not travel much off campus, very limited. So we're looking forward to that. Finishing up an expansion of our garage in Troy and just starting a major expansion of our garage here in Albany. Both of those are tied to our bus rapid transit line. So all of that money that we receive for bus rapid transit projects funds the corridor and the necessary infrastructure improvements that go along with that. You may have followed our new mobility initiatives. We recently expanded our bike share program into Warren County. Bikes are now in Glens Falls and in the village of Lake George. The reception has been, I would say, beyond phenomenal. To see that level of excitement for bikes or buses or pretty much anything we do was really refreshing to see. Not that all of you on the call don't get excited when we do something, but this was really something brand new for them. So we have high hopes for that in Warren County. You may have seen or been teased on social media. We've got 85 scooters, electric scooters, that we're going to pilot through the summer and see how the region responds to those. They'll be very tightly geocoded or geofenced so that we can control them and make sure that we can manage it. We're calling it a pilot. We have a lot of high hopes because there is a segment of the population that very much would like to see scooters. Our research, believe it or not, shows that just like bikes, it's a very purposeful tool. These trips are unlike what most people think. It's not just let's take a scooter through the streets of Cohoes. It's a very purposeful trip, perhaps to CVS, perhaps to a market, perhaps even to a doctor's appointment. So we're going to pilot them small scale, see how we do. You may also know that, some of you may know that, I guess in the private sector, we've acquired the rights to Capital Car Share. We have Capital Car Share right now. We're going to pilot that. We're working with an operating partner right now to outline how that would work. We have a grant in for 10 electric vehicles, but we hope that by fall to have an operating structure in place where we can pilot it. We'll stay in Albany right now where it is currently based, but if it works and if it's successful, we would very much like to expand that as well. I think it's a program that is very valuable and for whatever reason was underused. We'd like to change that. So if you follow buses, bikes, scooters, cars, eventually one common payment platform entry into the system. I think that's what the future of mobility will look like in the capital region. Last but not least, with the help of a lot of people on this call, we have been assisting in moving people, for the last 15 months. Now that has sort of shifted. We're not moving people to vaccination sites or testing sites. We're moving medical professionals to different parts of the 4-county region. We have a mobile vaccination trolley. We have a mobile vaccination bus soon in Rensselaer County. We've moved healthcare professionals to senior centers. So if there's anything that you know of that we need to be there to help with, reach out to us. We've made it a mission to answer just about every one of those positively. So if you see something that we ought to be involved in, you see a need for people to be moved, you see a way that we can get to people who need vaccine, please let us know. That's pretty much it for me, Mayor.
Thanks, Carmen. On behalf of the residents of the city of Albany, I want to thank you for, the work that you've done to allow us to get vaccinations to people in our really hard to reach communities. It's not just about people being out in, the countryside. It's really neighborhood by neighborhood, and every request that we've made, even when it's been on short notice, you guys have been there. So really appreciate it.
That's what we're here for.
Okay, Patrick.
That's gonna be a hard act to follow, Mayor, but I'll do my best to keep it as exciting as Carm did. I guess the good news on the DOT front is, it's construction season. We're out there, we're working. We're seeing a lot of bidders on our projects, which means the prices are coming in good. The trend has been that the projects are being let lower than our engineering estimate. We'll see how long that continues as we see building materials go up. But right now, things are looking good. Some of the projects you guys will be seeing in the area, we're going to be doing a superstructure replacement on Fuller Road over the next couple of weekends, where we're going to be hammering out the deck and putting in precast units. We're also going to be doing, or we have been doing, some joints on I-90 over Erie that will continue. We'll pick up again after we're done on Fuller Road. We'll be working on the twin bridges. We're going to be doing a painting project underneath the bridge. We're also going to be painting the areas of the arch that we call the high splash zone, where the salt tends to get on the structure. It's an important structures, and we're going to try to keep those up and running. One other thing, I guess I'll just get on my soapbox here. I've been preaching it to all our folks, and I'm going to ask you, the members of this group, to join in on spreading the word that people pay attention when they drive through our work zones. We had 2 of our employees seriously hurt a couple of weeks ago. So I'm asking everybody to lead by example. Don't speed through the work zones. Pay attention unless you can get people to slow down. That's all I have. Bob, do you have anything else that I'm missing?
Thanks, Pat. I think we just want to touch base. We got some newer information on the Bridge New York program, and I know that's been some interest to the municipalities. As you recall, the budget includes $150 million, with 90.6 of it going upstate to the upstate MOU area. And so far, even though applications can still come in into next week, there have been 197 applications requesting just over $400 million. So, at least 4 to 1 in terms of the need versus the size of the program. And on the culvert side, the applications were already due last week or the other day. And for $50 million statewide, there's about $376 million that's been requested. So those applications, I said, they're mostly in. The review teams will do their work, and hopefully we'll see those awards in short order. But that's it, Pat. Thanks.
Great, thank you. If there aren't any questions, I'll kick it over to the Thruway.
Mayor, we don't have anybody representing the Thruway today at the meeting.
Okay. We do have someone representing the Albany County Airport Authority.
Thank you, Mayor. Pleasure to represent my Chief Executive, Phil Calderon, and thank you for this opportunity. We had a good news day today, launching the first Aeronautical Technology Institute here at the airport. Both county executives, Rensselaer County Exec Stephen McLaughlin, Dan McCoy and company, and most of the board of trustees of Hudson Valley Community College were here for a nice media event, launching a new initiative. It's the first aviation maintenance technician school. These are mechanics, good, decent salaries that will be trained here to help address a national and statewide deficiency in aircraft mechanics. So this new institute, based at our Hangar 1, can't quite see it out the window, but it's right next to the terminal, just south of the terminal. We'll offer a degree and certificate programs taught by college faculty here at Albany Airport. So it's the ATI at ALB, or Albany International Airport. Our capital program's going strong. But before I get into that briefly, passengers are coming back, as you may have heard, surpassing, we've been holding at about 50% of pre-pandemic levels for about a month, but with the onset of schools out and I guess vacation season, we're seeing a a very strong passenger resurgence, approaching 2/3 of pre-pandemic levels. So we used to say we're missing half. Now we're only missing a quarter to a third of the passenger traffic, and most flights are full, and the carriers are responding with increased flights. So we're doing well on the passenger side. Cargo, of course, has continued throughout with 10 to 15% growth, even during the pandemic, with increased just-in-time demand, air shipping throughout. So there's additional air freight in all modes that we're seeing here. On the capital side, we did bid, and we're seeing very competitive asphalt bids, about $5.5 million bid for full length, 8,500 feet by 75. Our taxiway Alpha primary taxiway will be completely reconstructed this summer. Good strong bidding on that. Bidding of fleet, we have a large fleet. Snow removal equipment's important, and so we're advancing that this year also. So we have 10 open grants. We're pursuing grant initiatives for terminal security checkpoint expansion, a new commercial hangar, and also other expanded opportunities in the airfield. So I'll close with that. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thanks for flying Albany.
Well, that's great news. Any questions? All right, we'll move to Patrick and the Port Authority.
Thank you, Mayor. Probably see from my face that I'm not usually called on first at this meeting. I'm called on last, Mike. So that's why I had a little pause at the beginning. Our newest warehouse just received its temporary CO. So we already have product coming into a brand new 60,000 square foot warehouse. Sort of been kicking off our tour to city development folk, county, people from Bethlehem have been coming through. We start with that brand new warehouse, kind of show them what we're going to do in the terminal, show them our brand new Southern Wharf, and then take them over to the expansion site. It's really been just gangbusters, if not daily, certainly every other day, meetings with staff, engineers, everybody in the community. This morning we had a kickoff to, the mayor already kind of discussed our big job force that's going to be coming out of this expansion site. So the developers of what's going to be out in the ocean is Equinor, and our port user for once we finish building the project is a team that's Marmon and Welcon that are going to build the towers inside of our facility. So we introduced them this morning to a rather large array of stakeholders. We had City of Albany development and workforce development, economic and workforce development, housing authority, the wage center, BOCES, Albany School District, the superintendent was on, Hudson Valley Community College had some representation on it, the Capital District Trade Unions Council, really everybody that we think in the county that we can try to facilitate to bring to the table. Because while the port is not going to be the end job producer, we are the ones that are going to try to funnel the people that we know need jobs, specifically aimed at the south end, building on Warren Street that the Housing Authority has control of, and a building on, I think, Broad Street that the trade union has control on, of where we are going to be pushing as much as we can to have residents go there to take classes and see what the job market is. Hudson Valley and BOCES are really perking up. They understand that these are going to be good, high-paying jobs, working hundreds of feet above the ocean, out on that product. But here at the port will be very experienced welders. Our friends in this from Canada kind of explain that even the most experienced welder in the area will have to go through months worth of training, because this is not like a normal or a traditional welding that you'd see in the area. Mechanical engineers, HR staff, clerical staff, soup to nuts that we're going to try to be pushing into, Albany County, but the city in particular. And then this afternoon, I was a little late getting on this. We met sort of with the alphabet soup. Pat Barnes was on for a while with DOT, DEC, OGS, everybody from the state, kind of trying to explain to them how big this is and the process that we're not up against, but we're sort of up against. This is bigger than anybody's used to. So we were fielding questions of, well, can the bridge over the Normans, can it be smaller? Can you not have a bridge? And our engineer had to explain that this bridge is going to be right now 10 times the capacity of a traditional DOT highway bridge. It's just unheard of. So we're hoping we won't get pushback from, the agencies, but we probably will be leaning on everybody here for supportive letters or feedback to our reviewing agencies to show just exactly how important this expansion is. We submitted last week to the town of Bethlehem and the Bethlehem Planning Board our preliminary site plans for 600,000 square feet of plant factory buildings and the bridge infrastructure and the new wharf, all of which are work in progress. The engineering is not done. We wanted to get in front of the planning board because we have an extremely aggressive schedule for this plant to be up and working at the end of third quarter, hopefully 2024. It's a year and a half build out and probably a 6 month to 9 month review process. So it's kind of all hands on deck. And just totally separate from that, but a small note I wanted to say, because we were talking about COVID. I was fortunate enough to help lead an onboard vaccination clinic that we did in a ship just a couple weeks ago with the Maritime Ministry and a pharmacy up in Cohoes that was able. I was already vaccinated, and a few other people were vaccinated. And we went right on the ship and vaccinated the entire crew, from the ship's captain down. People from the Philippines, Russia, Estonia, and Vietnam. So we're going to continue to do that throughout the summer to try to these guys go up and down the East Coast and make sure they're as safe as they can be going into other ports. Just kind of do our small part at this point. So thank you, Mayor.
Very exciting. I think, this is a huge project. This is really big, and, spreading that word in the community is going to be really important. So thank you. Okay. Mike, you had, you've done the linkage and planning activities, right?
Yeah, there's also an opportunity if any of the members have any local planning activities that they like to talk about.
Mayor and Mike, I had a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The first is for Pat. Pat, we were notified about the New York State touring route funding about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. And what I was just curious about, do you have any inclination on whether this is a one-time funding source, or is this something that the state may look to keep as a supplement to CHIPS?
This is Chris asking.
This is Chris.
Okay. Bob, are you going to jump in?
Yeah, Chris, I mean, right now it stands as a one-time thing. The actual wording in the legislation is relatively short. So, I mean, certainly more deliberation will happen, but it, like CHIPS, I mean, it doesn't have its own revenue stream. So, it's always subject to, what the legislature decides to do. But, it's been asked for years to get at some of those routes and be another method. But as it stands right now, it is just a standalone legislation in this year's budget, or piece in this year's budget.
Okay. And a second question I had, Mike, was with regards to, still kind of learning, I guess. What is the reason behind, I was just looking at a map during Patrick's talk about the Port Commission. The Port of Coymans, I drove past that on 87 or 90 as you have it, and it seems like it's growing exponentially, and it's in the MPO district, but it's not part of this. Is it because it's not a commission? It's not a a Port District Commission? Because it seems to be just as, as large. It seems like it's growing, where we have, and it's not part of these discussions when we talk about this group. And is it just because it's not an authority or a commission?
Well, not necessarily authority or commission, but it's privately owned and operated. So because it's a private business, it's not a member. Now, we have tried to make some contact with them in the past, especially with our freight advisory committee. They've been down there a few times to talk to them, and they've actually had tours. But it's kind of a struggle to get their attention and to get them involved in our planning, because the federal fund sources, they would not be eligible for federal fund sources.
Okay, so that's the reason. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. With respect to, we'll move on to other, and I have an update. As we all know, we're conducting against our will a search to replace Mike. We received a number of applications, and we're going to be proceeding with interviews, and that process is moving along. Carmen, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that. CDTA has been really helpful in allowing us to utilize their human resource department to facilitate the process. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Carm?
I don't think so, unless someone, wants details or some of the, we would hope, we had kind of hoped to be done by now, but with schedules and everything like that, it's moved a little slower than we had thought, right? I'm sure no one's surprised about that, but I guess I'm going to give the mayor the credit here. I think she kind of just politely twisted Mike's arm. He will stay for a little bit to get us through this transition. It may take us to midsummer to get this done.
Right. Again, we'll keep this group appraised, and if we have to, if people have questions, don't hesitate to contact myself or Carm or any of us on the executive committee. So with that, one of the things that I wanted to acknowledge, though, is that in his role, because he does have a retirement date, so he may come back and consult with us for a while, but this is the last policy board meeting that Mike will be attending as the executive director. And I just want to thank him for his 9+ years of service to CDTC. He's also held a number of positions in public service and has had a very distinguished career. And during that career, I think he's always been a person who's tried to do outreach, bring people together, focus on policy. He's a native of my city, so I have known Mike for a really long time. Graduated from VI, 12 years serving our country in the Coast Guard. And he doesn't know it, but I'm actually going to get up and walk into his office and hand something to him right now.
No, I didn't know that.
Hey, by the way, how come the mayor could come to CDTC, but we can't?
I had no idea
Oh,
that she was here. I knew something was kind of going on because they shut my door. But
So I'm here. We have a little, I don't know if people can hear me. You have microphones right here. Let me. All right, so maybe you can hear me, but I'm here with Mike's family, his children. The 6 grandchildren aren't here, are they? No. Okay. So Gregory, Marisa, and Robert. And I said all those nice things about him, and I am proclaiming today, Thursday, June 3rd, 2021, Michael Franchini Day in the city of Albany. And I'm going to be asking our residents to join me in really thanking Michael for his dedicated service to the city of Albany, to the greater capital region, and wish you the best in your retirement. So.
Wow, that was a surprise. I really did not expect the family to be here. Did you get approval from your boss to be here? I just want to know that. And the state police are doing okay? I mean, they're without you? Oh, for now, okay. And I know emergency services is probably. Thank you all very much. Yeah, it's been a great 9 years, and thank you very much, Mayor, for making it Michael Franchini Day. But like a lot of things, it takes a lot of people, a lot of good people to do what we do here, and I just want to thank the staff, for everything that they've done. I've talked about this before. I think we have one of the best staff, of any MPOs, certainly in New York State and maybe the country. But I want to really thank the staff for all their hard work. And the other, I also like to thank the members. I've said this before. Our members are always active and always willing to participate, and I really appreciate, their willingness to cooperate and to reach consensus, which is what we're all about here. So a lot of credit goes to the members. The last people I like to thank are the officers of CDTC, the mayor for her job putting up with CDTC and being the chair for all this long this period of time, and of course the vice chair, who is also our host, CDTA and Carmen Bissell. We really appreciate CDTC, CDTA. MPOs all have hosts, and we have one of the best hosts going that really supports us here. And thank you, Carmen, for all your help and your staff. And that's all I have. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. The chair has adjourned the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.